Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and I'm here with another reading vlog. This time we are going to be reading some of the series that I'm in the middle of. I am currently in the middle of 18 series. This is not even all of them because some of them I'm in the middle of strictly like digitally. Like either through my library or through audiobooks, whatever. But this is all of them that I own some of the books from. So 18 series is obviously way too many to be in the middle of. It's gotten a little out of control and it's stressing me out. So in today's video, we are going to start trying to tackle this. One of my goals for 2025 was to try and finish more series, and I have been doing terrible at that, honestly. I came into the year, let me see, I have it on my laptop. At the beginning of the year, I was in the middle, like actively in the middle of 8 series. I have started 14 series this year. I have finished 8. And that is how I have ended up in the middle of 18 series. So we're definitely gotten out of control. I need to finish it, and so many books that are on my TBR right now are the starts of a new series, and so I need to finish some so that I can start some new ones and just generally be finishing them. Now that being said, this is not technically every series I'm in the middle of. Some of them I've just decided not to continue. Those are not included on this list. Some of these I'm not like actively tracking. So like for example, I'm in the middle of reading the Hercule Poirot books, but I'm not tracking that because it's not really a series. So there's some books like that like I am reading them, or some books that I'm in the middle of the series but it's not like a high priority to finish it soon, and so those ones are not part of this. So there technically are more series than this that I'm in the middle of, but these are the ones that I'm like really trying to read through actively right now. So I'm gonna set this big stack of books down and I'll let you tell you which series we are actually going to be reading or continuing in this video. I've picked 4 series that I'm going to continue in this video. I'm just going to be reading the next book in the series. So some of these that will finish the series, some of these it just gets me a little bit further. The other tricky thing about a lot of these series is some of them I'm in the middle of like a series within a whole universe of books. So like for example, I'm in the middle of reading the Enderverse right now, and I've read the whole first series technically, but I need to start like the next series in the universe, so I have that included in here. So those are a little tricky to tell, but I'm not reading any of those in this video. So the first one that I'm reading is actually one that I got in from Libby, which is why it made the list to read now, and that is Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer. I did read Renegades. I have the physical copy of the first book, but I just wasn't obsessed enough to get the rest of the series, so I'm reading them through Libby, and I'll probably get rid of that book at some point. But this is sci-fi, like a YA sci-fi series. It's very superhero-y, so it's following basically this world after you kind of have like the superheroes and the villains, and you're following one person from each side of the war, and the main villain girl that you're following, it's been a while since I read this, but the main villain girl that you're following decides to go undercover with the superheroes to try and like infiltrate them, and that's kind of the general gist. Like I said, it's been a minute since I've read this book. It's been over a year for sure. I'm not even sure when I read the first book. Has it been 2 years? Let me see. It's been a while. Yeah, so I read it in November of 2023. So we are coming up on 2 years since I read this first book. So I'm a little nervous about remembering all of these characters and stuff, but I did want to continue the series. I just haven't gotten around to it. So I'm doing that now. I have it on the Kindle. I'll be reading it that way. This is going to be the first book I start with, is Arch Enemies. And then the second series that I want to continue is the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I've read the first book only, so the next one I need to read is Words of Radiance. These books are thick. I read the first one a little over a year ago, so this is another one that I'm slightly nervous about my ability to remember everything. This one I do feel like I remember slightly better, mostly because my dad and my husband have both read the series and they talk about it all the time, so I feel like I've gotten a refresher course just from chatting with them. And my dad read the first one, actually he read the whole series pretty recently, so I definitely need to continue this one so I can actually be part of their conversations and not have to leave so that they don't spoil things. But I think I'm going to tag team between this in the physical and the audiobook. My husband listened to it on the audiobook recently and he said that the narrator is really good. So I might kind of do both on that one, and I need an audiobook right now anyways, so I feel like that will help me get through it faster as if I tag team it. So that's the second book. And then the next two are actually the second books in duologies, so these ones I'll be actually finishing the series, which will be really nice because we'll be able to get that number down. The first one is All of Our Demise by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. But this one is, again, the second book in a duology. The first one is called All of Us Villains. This is a YA fantasy series. It's an urban fantasy, so there's high magic and there's low magic, and lots of people can learn to do low magic. Like, that's a pretty common thing. High magic, most people think doesn't exist in the world anymore, except that there happens to be one town where there are several families who trade around control of the high magic, and so they have a tournament every like 15 years or whatever, and that determines who gets to control the high magic until the next tournament. And so we've come upon the time when all the families have to pick a champion to fight in this tournament that is to the death. Whoever the last one alive is their family gets to be in control of the magic. But you have this added element that somebody has gone and basically been a whistleblower and written a book about this tournament and published it. So now you have this whole added thing that the whole world knows about the tournament. Some people are really up in arms about it. You've got paparazzi involved now. It's like this whole thing. And so you're following all these different kids that get chosen to compete in the tournament. This first book ends off on quite the cliffhanger. Like, you are mid-tournament when the first book ends. So I'm very excited to get into the second one. And again, this will be finishing a series. So I'm very excited about this one. This one should be a very quick read, which will be nice after getting through Words of Radiance. And then the last book that I want to read in this video is Shadows of Truth by Astrid Schultz. This is the sequel to League of Liars, which I listened to as an audiobook. And I really love Astrid Schultz books as audiobooks, but this one doesn't seem to have been recorded. So I ended up getting the physical copy of it. I'm going to read it. Again, second book in a duology. This is a series where you basically have a legal thriller combined with a fantasy world. So you're living in this world where there's this like shadow magic stuff, but it's illegal to use. And so anybody who uses the magic is obviously going to be arrested and go to trial. And so you're following this kid who he's spending the summer basically working as a intern for one of the top defense attorneys in this world who defends people who have done crimes using magic. And so you're kind of following this whole world. The intern kid is very anti-magic. His mom died from an accident involving magic when he was really little, and so he's very anti people using magic. But as he's working with this defense attorney, he kind of has to think about maybe there's a little bit more to it than just people being bad people who decide to use magic. There's lots of twists and turns. There's lots of other characters that get added into the mix. Things get really crazy at the very end of this first book, so I'm very excited to get into the second one and finish up this duology. So that's my TBR for this video. Again, we're going to be continuing these series. I will bring you along as I read these books, let you know my thoughts. This book video will be a little tricky. I'm going to try and keep it spoiler free. If I ever do decide to go into spoilers, I will make sure you know, but that will make it a little tricky. I'll try my best to tell you how I'm feeling about these books without spoiling anything, where they are not the first books in series. Anyways, I'm just going to jump into reading, and I will let you know when I have some updates on some of my books. Hey everybody, I thought I'd give you a quick update. I've gotten sick, so if my voice sounds weird at all, it's because my throat hurts really bad. But I finished Arc Enemies and it was alright. I gave the book 4 stars. It definitely felt a little drug out to me. Like, just not much was happening until the end of the book. It's one of those things where I feel like you're waiting for the secrets to be revealed, right? Like, everybody has a million secrets in this book, and so you know at some point they're all going to come out and everyone's going to figure out what the secrets are, but it is taking so long to get around to that point that it's getting a little bit frustrating. So that's been unfortunate. They still haven't really, like, some of them have sort of come out for certain people. Like, some people are now in the know about certain things at the end of this book, but not everybody knows about everything. So I don't know, I think I just got a little frustrated with how much that was getting dragged out. I also feel like they completely just dropped the anarchists for the whole first half of this book. You don't see them at all. I totally forgot that she was still like living with them and stuff. That was a little bit weird to me, that they just completely like dropped the whole double life thing until like halfway through the book, and then we like really leaned back into it. And so I think I'm just a little bored with the characters' motivations. I feel like, again, just our 2 main characters are just so meh. Like, they're just not that interesting of characters. I feel like there's so many things in this book that could be so interesting and are like, you could have done something so fun with that, but she just didn't. And so I'm just feeling a little disappointed by it all, but I am going to continue the series. I actually just got my hold in for the 3rd book in the trilogy, so I am going to continue that at some point, probably pretty soon. I don't think I'll include it in this video just because I'm trying to get through other books, but that was Arc Enemies. It was fine. Nothing super impressive. I am also about halfway through Words of Radiance. I've been tag teaming between this and the audiobook. So the one thing about the audiobook is there are lots of pictures in these books, and so it is kind of fun to read the physical to see the books. So I've been going through and flipping through and making sure I don't miss any pictures when I've been listening to the audiobook. But we have finally reached the point where all of the characters are together in one place, and I've been kind of waiting for that because I feel like the jumping back and forth between different POVs that don't really like line up got a little bit boring. Like, I feel like I'd get into a storyline and then we'd jump and then I'd have to like re-get into it. So I'm very excited that all of the characters are now together. I think that's gonna help a lot with my interest in it, and we've been working our way towards this for a while. Like, obviously these books are not the fastest paced books ever. I will say I'm getting a little bit frustrated with how little information we have. Like, I just don't really understand where we're going with everything, which is one thing that I struggle a bit with high fantasy, where I am such a plot reader. I feel like I lots of times have a hard time with high fantasy books like this when it just, you can't really tell what our goal is. Like, what are we going for? I feel like Mistborn has a little bit more of a clear path that they are taking, a clearer objective. This one doesn't really. The other complaint that I have so far is that Wit has not been in this book basically at all, and I'm just like, where's Wit? Wit is the best character in this book. So my husband has assured me that he does show back up at some point, so I'm waiting for that. But yeah, I need more Wit. I like the different Sprens that several of the characters have connected with. I think that the Sprens are fun. They add that little bit of comedic relief. But overall, I'm not like super into any of these characters. So I think that's part of why the missing, or like the lack of plot, is really getting to me. Is I'm just like, I'm not like so hooked on any character. So yeah, I don't know. I do like Kaladin. He's grown on me for sure, but I'm not like obsessed with him. So and the other ones I really feel like are just like, meh, fine, but they're like not anything crazy. So I don't know, it's not my favorite so far. I feel like these books are just impressive in what he's done with them and made them so big, but they're not like books that I think everyone needs to read. They're definitely not my favorite Brandon Sanderson at all. You just like can't help giving them points for how impressive they are. So I'm gonna keep working through this one. I'm honestly going back and forth on if I want to try and finish this one for this video, because it's just is a lot to read and I really want to get to my other 2 books. So part of me is like, maybe I'll just put this down for a minute and try and get through those, but then I'm like, I'm into it, so I might as well just keep reading. I don't know. I'm probably gonna keep reading with it today, and then we'll see tomorrow how I'm feeling. I've been very low energy and very low motivation with being sick. So we'll see. I'll finish today off reading this book, and then depending on where we're at, tomorrow I'll either start a new book or we'll keep going with this one.
Okay, I have finished Words of Radiance. This one was a beast of a book to get through. This took me a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. I read the first book in like a week, and that was while I was working full-time, so I thought I'd be able to get through this relatively quick, but it has taken me quite a while to finish reading this book. Granted, we did go on a family vacation in the time frame, so I've been doing other stuff, but I have finally finished. I feel like overall this book was slightly slower than I felt like Way of Kings was, but maybe that's just because Way of Kings had so much groundwork that I needed to lay, that there was a lot going on just purely in introducing who all the characters were. That being said, the last like 150 to 200 pages I felt like really picked up and a lot did start happening. So I'm interested to see the next book if it maintains this or if we slow back down into the last couple hundred pages of that book too. Who knows? I do feel like a lot of people think that this is one of their favorites of the series. So far I think I might have liked the first one better, but I think what a lot of it was that a lot of my favorite characters weren't really in much of this book. We kind of narrowed down which ones we're focusing on, and I'm going to try and explain this all out, spoilers, but a lot of my favorite characters just I feel like weren't so big of a part of this book for various reasons. I feel like a lot of this book really focused on two characters, kind of three, but two characters mainly I would say, and both of those characters kind of frustrate me a lot, and so I was struggling a little bit. I felt like I spent a lot of this book really frustrated and just really annoyed with the characters, so that kind of drug things out for me. I felt like there was a lot of characters making decisions that I was just so annoyed with that I was just like trying to speed read in order to get through to the point where we dealt with all of their poor decisions. I don't know. I'm hoping that some of the characters that I like will become bigger roles in some of the future books. Talking with my husband about this, I feel like some of the characters that I like are maybe not typically the most popular characters, so I'm interested to see. Hopefully they get to play bigger roles in some of the later books because I kind of missed them in this one. So overall it was fine. I think it's like a 4-star. I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm the biggest high fantasy person when it comes to big books like this. Like, I just struggle when the plot is so drawn out. It feels like eventually there will be payout for all of the random little details, but it's so far away that I feel like I'm just gonna forget everything by the time it all comes to fruition. There were so many times in this book where I was talking to my husband about something, he's like, no, you know that person, and I'm like, I do? Where, like, where have I seen that character before? And he had to like go back and explain several things. I don't know how he has managed to keep track of all of this, but definitely taking a big break in between the first and second book put me at a bit of a disadvantage. There were definitely things that I'd forgotten and had to be reminded about. I'm going to try and make a concerted effort to not wait so long until I read Oathbringer, which is the next book, but I did check this one off. This one was on my 2025 TBR, so it feels good to finally have gotten through this one. I'm definitely not diving right into the next one. I will say I like the narrators, but the audiobook definitely goes so much slower than reading it in person or like reading it physically. Because they truly are acting it out, which is great, and it's really interesting to listen to, but it takes so much longer. So I'm torn on if I'll continue with trying audiobooks or not. I feel like I read majority of this book just because the audiobook felt so slow, but that's Words of Radiance. It is finished. I did the big chunky one for this video, and I think I'm going to move on to all of our demise. This one I'm really excited about. I think this one is going to be super bingeable, and I think Shadows of Truth will also be very bingeable, but I feel like this one's gonna require a little more brain power. I feel like there's a few more complicated things, and there's like a legal system you gotta follow and stuff in this one. This one is just like straightforward trials, and it left off at quite a cliffhanger, so I am very excited to read the next little bit of this book. So I think this is gonna be my next one. I should be able to fly through this book. Let's see, how long is it? Can I do this without spoiling? 464 ish pages. It might be slightly further than that, but very excited about this one. This one will be good, and then we'll get onto this. So I'll update you probably when I finish this one, because I don't know that I'll have many thoughts in the middle of the book with trying to keep this spoiler free. So well, let's go read all of our demise, and I will be back when I'm done.
I finished all of Our Demise, so I thought I'd update you. I don't know if I filmed hardly anything while reading this book. I don't think I did a midway update. This one picks up pretty much directly after where the first book ended, which makes sense. That one left off on quite a cliffhanger, like middle of the action. This one picks right back up, which was really fun. It did give quite a bit of recap stuff at the beginning, where it kind of rehashed everything that happened in the first book. Not like totally, but like summarized it. I feel like that's super helpful when they do that when you have a big time gap between, like if you're reading it when the books come out and you've waited for this book to come out, that would be super helpful. Reading them pretty close together, that part felt a little repetitive, so there is that. I can't discount it too much because I do think it is helpful if you're reading the books far apart. So just as a heads up, if you read them really close together, I ended up kind of skimming some of those bits where it felt like it was just doing a recap. This book was very good. I gave it 4 stars. I feel like it continued well from where it was. We took a little bit of a different path, but the action really ramped up. There was lots of interesting things happening with the relationships. There was one plot point that I just had a feeling in my bones was coming at some point, and I don't want to say it because it is probably a spoiler, but there was one plot point that I was like, I just feel like at some point, I don't know what character it's going to happen with, but I feel like we're going to have this certain thing happen, and it did end up happening. I'm not sure that I'm thrilled about which character it was, but at the same time, I don't think I would have been thrilled if it was any of the characters. So that's that. Definitely not like everybody lives happily ever after type of a book. It's one of those things where all of the characters who do survive through it, like there's lots of deaths even in book 1, so just like be prepared. They are in a death tournament, so like just be prepared. Lots of characters do die, and in this book more characters die. I felt like the ending was satisfying, if not happy. So some of the characters I feel like I'm okay with where their story ended. Some of them I was a little bit disappointed that we couldn't have come up with a better ending, but I do feel like it's hard when all of these characters are technically being pitched as villains to give them like a happy ending. So I don't know, it was good. I was satisfied with how it ended. There was a couple parts where I felt like the plot slowed down a little bit, but overall the action stayed pretty fast throughout it. A good sequel, a good end to the series. I'm glad that this wasn't they didn't try to make this more. I also thought the angle of the press and like the paparazzi being involved became very interesting, how they utilized it in this book. In the first book it's like kind of there and it's a little obnoxious, but it's not like super involved in the plot. The press get a lot more involved and it's very interesting. I thought that storyline was really cool, how they utilized that. I really like these characters. It's one of those books where there's not really like a clear bad guy really, because everybody's morally gray. So I don't know, it makes some really interesting dynamics between characters when you have every single character is just totally morally gray. So really enjoyed. I do think this was a great duology. While I was reading that, my hold actually came through from the library for Supernova, the last book in the Renegades trilogy, which I read the second book already in this video. I wasn't originally planning on including this in this video, but I'm about halfway through it, so I might as well. I decided to read it before I got to Shadows of Truth because my hold is expiring. So I'm gonna try and finish this today actually, because my hold I think is done either today or tomorrow. So I need to finish this. It's going well so far. There's some stuff happening in it that I kind of wish had happened in book 2. I feel like lots of things are finally coming to a head. And now we're almost introducing like a whole bunch of extra characters and dilemmas and things like that. So I don't know, I'm a little confused where we're going with this. It feels like we're introducing a lot of stuff for the last book of a series. So I'm very curious to see how that goes, because usually you are kind of wrapping things up by the last book, not introducing a whole new cast of characters. So I'm curious. Definitely I'm glad that some of the things have come to a head. I don't really see how we're going to fully overcome some of the things that are going on in this book. There's definitely some relationship dynamics that I don't know how we fully fix that, but we'll see. I'm halfway through. I'll update you when I'm done, probably later today or tomorrow. But Supernova going well so far, and then we will read that final book that was on my TBR, Shadows of Truth. Update. I finished Supernova. It was alright. It was a very quick bingeable book.
I give it 3.5 stars. I feel like it was fine, but it wasn't anything super amazing. Really, there was just so many things that just ended up being just really convenient. Like, a lot of stuff just happened to work out just so nicely, and a lot of people were just like really willing to forgive a bunch of people for really intense things. And just like a lot of people were changing their mind really back and forth like crazy. Like, I don't know, it was just kind of weird how quickly people changed their minds in this book. As far as the ending, I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like there was a large part of this book where, it's hard to explain without spoilers, but we're building up towards things and something keeps happening that I thought was going to be a really interesting storyline, that a lot of characters had some really hard stuff happen that they were going to have to deal with. And then something happens that honestly is not explained very well. I'm still really confused of exactly what happened in that scene, and it just reverses it all. And so then everything just goes back to normal, and nobody ended up having to deal with the consequences of like the things that were happening that we were building up towards. So it was kind of weird. I just feel like in general, there was not a lot of interesting payoff. I kind of wish that the stuff that had happened in the third book happened in the second one, and then the third one could have been them dealing with like the fallout of what happened at the end. So I don't know. Overall, a little underwhelming. I feel like the first one was definitely the best one. There was a lot of things that could have been really interesting that I feel like just weren't fleshed out as much. Like, she just didn't really go where I was hoping she would go with a lot of the things, which was kind of disappointing. And again, I just feel like there just wasn't a lot of payout or like payoff for some of the things that the characters were going through. A lot of it just conveniently went away and we never actually ended up dealing with it. So I don't know, not my favorite. I don't know if I'd super recommend it. I can see what people are saying. I've heard a lot of people say that they think she's going to write more books in this world because of the epilogue. I can see where they're going with that. If she's not going to write more books, then like, what was the point of that epilogue? I have no idea. So I don't know. Not as obsessed with this as a lot of other people seem to be, but it was fine. I'm glad I finished the series. And then I also started Shadows of Truth. I'm about 100 pages in. It's going well so far. It picks up immediately after where the first book ends, so that one's nice. It's hard to really talk about this book without spoiling it. Really, we're dealing with a lot of the consequences of what happened in the first book. We're getting quite a bit of extra world building going on in this book, which has been nice. There's a lot of explanations happening. I had a theory about something that I thought was going to happen in this book, and I did not end up being right, which on one hand, kind of disappointed that I didn't get it right. On the other hand, I'm kind of happy that I didn't, because that means that she actually managed to have a twist that I didn't necessarily see coming. Overall, really good. I'm excited to keep reading it and see where we go with this one. And then once I'm done, we'll wrap this video up. Hey guys, I have finished Shadows of Truth by Astrid Schultz. I'm giving this book 4 stars. I didn't like it quite as much as the first book. I gave the first one 4.5, but overall it was still a really good book. I feel like this one leaned a bit more traditional YA fantasy than the first book did. The first book was very YA fantasy meets legal thriller. This one was kind of more your standard, we're exploring a new magical world, we're learning new secrets, there's magical creatures, we're like fighting a magical being kind of a book. So it was good. Again, it just wasn't quite as catching as the first book was. I feel like what I love about Astrid Schultz's writing is her very unique concepts, and they just feel so fresh and so different. And this one felt a little more similar to a lot of other books. So that was really my biggest complaint about this book, is it just felt a little meh compared to some of her other concepts. I did like some of the character development things that we were going through. There were definitely also some annoying back and forth. We're friends and then we're not, and then we're friends and then we're not, and kind of a thing. We weren't really like a we're sticking it out through thick and thin type of relationship for a lot of them. I really liked Jay. I felt like his storyline was very interesting. I feel like he stayed very true to character. I feel like some of them kind of changed a little bit.
I also really like Kemma. I think she's a super interesting character. But yeah, overall, it was good. Not as good as the first one in my opinion, but it was still a good solid read. And with that, we are done with this video. I'm going to call it good. We read 5 books in this video. These 3 and then the 2 Renegades books on the Kindle through Libby. So overall it was really good. I am now down to 15 series that I am done with. We completed 3 in this video, so 15 series that I'm currently reading, which means I definitely will be needing to do another one of these videos. I have the next book in several series that I could continue or get through Libby, so definitely could continue another one just with what I have in my possession right now. I have the next Shadowhunter Chronicles book, City of Glass. I have the next Temeraire book, Empire of Ivory. I do technically have the next Stormlight Archive, but I think I'm gonna read one of Brandon Sanderson's other books first before I continue that series, so probably won't be doing that one in the next video. I do have the next books in the Ender's Verse that I need to read, and I have the next Red Rising book. So yeah, all of those I own the next book in the series, so definitely another video could be coming soon in this continuing series. Let me know which ones you think I should make my top priority series. But with that, we're gonna go ahead and end this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.